I've been installing Windows at least once a year, and I can say with utmost confidence that its current form is its worst. Last year is when they started to force users to be connected into the internet while in the installation process. I mean, why? I'm quite aware that there is a way to get past this. However, it does not work all the time. As a matter of fact, there's this one case where it worked for me and another where it did not. So yeah, it's quite clunky. And this year is when they started to force you to create a Microsoft account before you can even use your computer. I mean, you've already paid for the license key, so why do I need to create an MS account? We used to say that Windows is better because it just works. I'll have a separate discussion about this in particular, but more on that later. But in my opinion, this ain't quite true anymore. For one, during the installation process, Windows have way more prompts than ever. This is not the case back then. We can all agree that most of these prompts are predatory and are designed so that you'll give your consent so they can sell your data. After the installation, then what do you think comes to greet you next? Yes, of course. Even more prompts. And every time there's a major update, it'll ask you for the same prompts. Like you haven't talked about this already. Isn't that too forgetful? Again, this is designed so you'll feel annoyed and the inconvenience will eventually break you. And then eventually, you will agree to sell your data without getting else here in return. Having said all that, using Linux has never been more tempting to daily drive than ever. And by the way, I'm quite familiar to Linux. As a matter of fact, I almost exclusively use this for work. If you're going to ask me to choose between daily driving Linux or Windows for work, then the former is the obvious choice. While we do have Docker already, so developing in Windows has improved vastly, I still don't trust Windows. Sorry, not sorry. I have used Linux since college because we have this elective called open source. I mean, go figure. I never felt that it's too hard for me to use, but probably that's because I'm a software engineer and I think it's weird for me to say that. As for the distros that I've used, I have tried quite few, like Ubuntu, OpenSUSE, Mint, and a custom one based on Debian, which I can't name. I don't really find anything else different in most of them. Well, it turns out that Mint is based off Ubuntu and Ubuntu is based off Debian. That explains it. But amongst all the distros that I've used, I quite like Mint the most. From a Windows user's perspective, Mint looks the easiest to use and transition into. It has this streamlined package manager similar to Apple's App Store to make the installation process a lot easier. And on top of that, it's still Linux to the core. So if you encounter any issues with their so-called App Store, then you can still install it in various ways like you can do in Linux. I can say that I was an early adopter of Mint, and back then it's not as smooth as it is right now. So they have improved a lot since then. And I think back then that it's also a good start because I never understood why installing in Linux has always been this hard. So yeah. Now if I want to daily drive Linux, guess which distro I'm gonna use? You guess it right, it's Pop OS. No, kidding. Of course it's still Mint. While I hate cinnamon to the core, as in the food itself, Mint is too good to pass up. I still want it. I quite like to try Bazzite as well and install it on a dedicated gaming SFF rig, which is not this, but I'll hold off on that thought for now because I will use it for something else. So let's do Mint first. So let's start with the case. This is the N60 H5 Flow. This is the older version. And just a quick mini rant. I am not a fan or totally a hater of naming your newer version with the year it got released and call it just a refresh. In my opinion, I don't know the logic behind it from a marketing perspective, but if you were to sell new stuff, I think it would make sense to add V2 or Rev2. Just naming your newer version with the year because people won't know. And that got me thinking that it's a bad practice in a sense that, hey, maybe they're not naming it V2 or Rev2 so that when people wants to buy the newer version, because that's what they saw, people can still sell the older version and get rid of the old stock. But I think that's bad in long term. It doesn't really provide anything, but I guess if we can see numbers, it would make sense, but I'd rather not. I still think it's bad. So anyway, rant over. So let's move on with the motherboard. This is the B450 Tomahawk non-max version. As for the CPU, I have Ryzen 5 2600. As for the CPU cooler, I have Cooler Master Hyper 212 Black Edition. It comes with extra clips so you can do an intake and exhaust. So you don't have to buy an extra clip. As for the RAM, I have HyperX, I think, Beast Fury. I forgot its name. It's 3200. I think it's CL16 or 18. So there. As for the fans that we have here, they're all Corsair LL fans. So Corsair LL 120s for the intake, exhaust, and the rear. As for the top and the front, they are both LL 140s. So yeah, officially the case only supports two 120mm fans at the top. However, if we take a look closer, I have 140mm fans. And the thing is, the holes for the perforations allows you to screw them in forcefully. And actually, when I say forcefully, it's not forcefully to the point that you will destroy the panel itself. It's just that the distance of the holes allows you to screw them in without a hitch. So you can screw it in, no problem. There might be scratches, but then again, you won't see them. So yeah, it's big enough that it doesn't make sense for me that they did not add this like mounting holes. Instead, they went with the perforations. Because I can even fit an LED strip here. So yeah, there's a lot of space here. So if you can put 140mm fans, you can. And I also have LED strips, so they're daisy chain, also Corsair, just so to make it unified. As for the toilet bowl fan, which does nothing according to the tests, it is from N60. It's a free fan. Since it does nothing, and you can't see the RGB from the bottom, I just let it be a free fan. And for the rest of the stuff, I have here a network card. So you see an antenna here. Because B450 Tomahawk does not have built-in Wi-Fi, at least the B450. I don't know if the B550 has, but the B650 has, because I have that one in my main PC. So this is Wi-Fi 6 and also has Bluetooth, so pretty nice. And since there are a lot of PCIe slots, I can make use of it. And at the topmost, this is actually a connection that allows you to mount both of your front panels. So I have here Type A, and Type C. Now, the problem with B450 Tomahawk, again, since it's kind of outdated, is it doesn't have a Type E connector. The Type E connector is the one that the front panel uses to connect to the motherboard. And so having said that, I bought this card so that you can take in the Type E. However, as you can see, I don't know if you can see, the Type E is not populated. Instead, the Type A is. So what I did is I let the Type A here, since it's long enough, but I will modify it as well. Use an extender because the cable run across diagonally, which is bad look when you look at the cable management. And instead, I bought an adapter for the Type E and convert it to Type A. So the Type A native of the motherboard gets populated by the Type C instead, because the Type C can't reach up to here. So yeah, I have not seen any extender of this Type E to Type A. So yeah, I just met with it. They got swapped places, ironically. So yeah. Also, I have extension cables. This comes from another brand. This is different from here. While they do look the same, as you can see with the cable combs, this is transparent and the other isn't. I have a couple of fan splitters because I want these partner fans to be paired with each other because it just makes sense. And as for the power supply, I have a Seasonic 750 watt gold rated modular power supply. I think it's GX 750. I forgot, but it's good because it's Seasonic. And yeah. Apart from that, I have a Crucial MX. I forgot the brand, but it's 256 gig. Just enough for us to install Linux, no problem. So let's do the installation. And you thought I was able to install it, huh? Well, you're kinda right, but it did not go smoothly, and I can still say that I wasn't able to install it well. So let me explain. So phase 1 is when I tried to install it into the system that I showed you earlier, except that, if you didn't notice, it doesn't have a GPU. But what I did is I borrowed the GPU from this, which is a 6800 XT. Since it's an AMD, you would think that it will be compatible and would be smooth. Unfortunately, no. So when I was trying to install it, probably I will be able to provide a video because I know I have a copy of it. AMD VI completion loop timeout appears, and it almost always happens. So of course I troubleshoot it, and they say turn off IOMU, SVM, update your BIOS and stuff. I did all those, but nothing worked. So eventually, of course, I also disabled secure boot, just so you know, for those who are curious. So I couldn't make it work for almost half a day. Half a day, I mean 6 hours or more. So what I did is I installed it into my main PC. Yes, so this is my main PC. It is an N60 H6 Flow. Yeah, you know, I'm a fan of N60, obviously. So anyway, it runs okay. I mean, it's good. Unfortunately, when I tried to put the USB drive, the Linux Mint ISO, of course, I did change BIOS and stuff so that it boots from there and disable secure boot and, you know, yada yada stuff for Linux. Well, what appeared instead is something like there's something that went terribly wrong. And of course, if Linux says it so, it must be true, and it is. So my system restarted and it couldn't go through Windows. So of course it went to repair mode, but it couldn't finish the repair and it keeps hanging. So I went to BIOS. Hopefully there's something I can do from it. But even BIOS does not load properly sometimes. And so I have to update it because I think there's something wrong with my BIOS just as well. And of course I updated it. And I do have a UPS. Just don't pay attention to the cables. But yeah, I do have a UPS. So I know I'll be safe even if the power went out. But the problem is not that, but like I said, the BIOS has a problem itself. It couldn't load properly, and therefore during the process of updating it, it did not. And being that, you know what will happen, it's already brick, except that thankfully, I do have a BIOS flashback in my B650 Tomahawk. I was able to utilize that, a mini heart attack, and I think it actually went better now than the past firmware that I have in here. And basically, I have some problems with it earlier, not related to Linux, but yeah. I was able to fix it, so the repair for Windows happened. I actually did a system restore just so it's safe. And yeah, I was able to recover it. Some things needs to be reinstalled just so for them to work properly again, but nonetheless, I'm thankful that I was able to recover my PC. So from there on, I don't want to install Linux anymore actually, but of course, I did not give up. I thought I'm gonna give up, but it did not. So this is my home PC. I named it Idlewise. And this is its recovery drive. So I bought 5 USB. I was able to create recovery drive for this just in case the same situation happens. I wasn't able to do that for Obsidian, my main PC. I don't know why. As a matter of fact, I bricked one of the USB drives. So I got 1 out of 4 bad. I don't know how I can fix it, but anyway, that's one. And I have another drive here, and this is where I installed Linux Mint, but will act as a persistent drive. So the difference between that and normal is that the normal, when you save files and you restart, you won't be able to keep them. But I dedicated all of its space, so this is a 64 gig, as a persistent drive. So if I save something, it gets saved. So basically, this is a bootable USB OS drive, whatever, with Linux Mint. So the idea is turn off secure boot here, insert this, have a bay drive, extract the SATA SSD from the system. Once I load it from here, I will install Linux into the supposed SSD. And I was able to, as a matter of fact, after it instructs you to pull this out, use it here. Yes, even if I'm just connected via USB, okay, I was able to make it work. And it's not slow at all. I was able to install Steam, and it worked just fine. So I thought it's done. So when I detach the drive, installed it here, it didn't work. So the conclusion is, I won't be able to make it work to any MSI motherboards that I have, and I don't know why. I don't think other users have the same problem. I didn't think MSI will have a problem with it, because again, if that's the case, then people will highly suggest against it. There are tons of YouTube channels using MSI motherboards for their Linux and didn't have problems. Again, I've updated it to the latest. Actually, it uses a beta version, which is discouraged, but what do I have to lose? Anyway, I won't be able to daily drive Linux for now. So the best thing I can do is detach that again, install it here permanently, add another drive as a gaming drive, while you can technically share a gaming drive between your Windows. If I'm gonna dual boot here, I don't want, or not a fan of that idea. So yeah, but still, I don't want this to turn into a Linux machine. I'd rather create a separate SFF rig, like I said in the intro part. So apart from that, yeah, I don't think I'll be daily driving Linux. So plan failed, but yeah, I learned something at least. Genshin Impact. What a beautiful game. Except that I'm currently playing at Bazai. So what happened? Since the Linux Mint installation into the SSD did not work into the other system, I just harvested it, and instead of loading Linux Mint via hard drive mount, I installed it directly inside here. However, even after disabling all the settings that I need to disable, Linux Mint just doesn't want to load anymore, though I'm not getting the AMD VI error anymore. So I installed Bazite instead because I want to try it actually, and it just worked. Like straight up. No problems whatsoever, and I'm loving it so far. So for installing Genshin Impact, I actually did not install anything. So what I did is this. In my Windows, I already have Genshin Impact installation. So what I did is I just imported that installation to Steam. Except that I did change some settings. So in properties, you will have something like compatibility, and I chose Proton. So there are other options. The default is Sniper, but I went for Proton because that's what I've seen and like I know of, and it worked. Again, I don't know if it mattered, but that's what I went for. So as you can see earlier, Genshin Impact worked, did not install anything new or even patched, so it just works. I'm pretty sure that if I patch it here in Linux, it will work. And even if I patch it in Windows, it will also work. just fine. However, I don't know how to update it here because usually Genshin gets updated via its own launcher. So I'm pretty sure I have to log in Windows just so I can update this. As for other games, I've tried installing Enshrouded and it worked. However, comparing it to Windows, it has lower FPS. In Bazite, it's around 50 FPS, but doesn't go lower than that. However, it's not the same thing with Windows. In Windows, while it says that it's around 60 FPS, I get dizzy playing in it. I'm pretty sure it has something to do with 1% lows. It makes me dizzy, makes me want to vomit actually. So I refuse in playing Enshrouded here. At least with my other monitor, like at my parents' house, I don't get dizzy even if I play Enshrouded for an extended period of time. But in this particular monitor combo, in this system, I just can't play it in Windows. However, with this Bazite, though I haven't played for an hour, it's pretty smooth. It doesn't dip even if like I change the angle, which will usually cause the dip. It does not happen here. So looking good so far, but I need some more tests, so I'll do just that. So none of my plans worked out, so what are the moves moving forward? To be honest, I don't know. But hear me out. First option is to actually swap some parts. So basically, I'll take out 5700X3D and swap it with the 2600 in the other system. And even the RAM, because this has 3600, so this is better, and use the 3200 here instead. And this is the one that I'll carry around. I know it's imbalanced, it's super imbalanced, but at least it will have less power draw. Actually, I measured the power draw of Bazite, at least idle, compared to Windows. This usually at idle draws around 170, but this one can go as low as 130. So I don't know how the hell does Windows have 40 watts more. It's crazy. But anyway, I digress. Point here is that I want to swap systems out just so it will be less power consumption. Because essentially, if I use this system, I use it to play with my girl or when I'm at my parents' house, so I don't need that much power. So first, I will install some more games and test them out. The experience between when playing it in Windows versus Bazite. Hopefully, installation or importation is as easy as it was for Genshin. Because in Genshin, remember that it was installed via their own launcher. But I was able to import it, no problems whatsoever via Steam. So for me, it just makes sense that I can do the same with Steam installed games that I have. So I'll try it out and give you an update with that. So apart from that, I will try to slowly integrate some stuff. Of course, I can't play Valorant here. I will install Discord, but I know it has problem with communication. So for voice, I know it does not work. And DaVinci Resolve, I don't know if I can. Also overclocking, so they have this called LACT. They don't have Adrenaline software for Linux, which makes it like crazy because I've seen in LACT that my max wattage for this card is only 272. It has 3 PCIe on top of 75 watts coming from the motherboard. So to me, it's insane that their max wattage is 272. But you can see in a hardware monitor that it can go beyond 300, but not a lot. Like, not even 350, not even 375. And supposedly 450 plus 75, that's your max wattage with that config of 3 PCIe plus the motherboard. So yeah, insane. So apart from that, I will try to do all the stuff that I usually do in Windows and slowly integrate. But I'm not so sure if Bazite is the OS for that. But at least for games, yes, I can use it. So hopefully everything goes smooth. But so far, that's my Linux experience.